They lit the clock before they named their price. Admiral Mara Ilian's breath fogged the glass of the flag bridge as the enemy timer burned across the starfield. Ultimatum clock. 29:58 stenciled in hard crimson. Projected from 1,000 drones, the doctrine had seeded around Newport Gate. The convoy 80 cargo hulls lashed nose to stern hung behind her fleet like a nervous animal. If the numbers hit zero, Prefect Ya'al's doctrine said the shipments would be atomized and the gate sealed for a year. It wasn't about trade, it was about obedience measured in minutes. Argo Mara said, palms flat to steady the tremor in her fingers. Status of the lattice. In phase reserve, the fleet mind answered a low chorus threaded through the flag deck's speakers. Mirror nodes are cold. They'll look like ballast until we breathe. Ion coolant hissed underfoot. The deck plates hummed at a soothing 32 hertz, the Navy's choice to calm pulse and sharpen thought. Mara let the vibrations sink with her ribs. How many eyes on us public broadcasts on 7 polities, Argo said. Doctrinal channels are relaying the same clock with different ornaments. They believe symbols matter. Symbols matter when lives are tied to them, Tuumbahar. Sorrel murmured. She stood at tactical pale from long hours, the console's blue glare painting her jaw. Ultimatum clause cites 3 options: kneel, evacuate, or be taught. We will teach. First, Mara said quiet as a prayer. We always do. Before the first shot, we make room for breath on the cargo hauler. Little Hark, a steward named Siv, slid hot nutrient broth across a table to 6 kids whose eyes kept dragging to the window. They could see the red numerals blooming like a wound. Shiv's hands were scarred from coolant burns years ago, a memory of dock days when she learned where not to put skin. Sip, she told the smallest, a girl with hair clipped too short to hide her fear. Your stomach remembers warmth better than it remembers dread. The ship's bones creaked a friendly old hull. Someone in the corridor strummed a battered chin strings buzzing against loose frets. In the mess, the air tasted faintly of ozonated citrus. The recycler had been overzealous again. Shiv did not look at the clock. She looked at the children, counted breaths, and hummed a bar from a cradle song that had once softened a planet's winter. Prefect Ya'al's fleet confirms positions, Sorrel said on the bridge. They're holding outside the corridor. Their drones are netting our sensor backscatter. Lieutenant Cade EW nets are tucked, Cade said. He was young enough to have never learned to smoke in engine heat, but he chewed empty as if he had. Once we pop the mirrors, their targeting solutions will chase their own ghosts. If they commit to fire discipline, we win time. Time is a weapon when you refuse to bleed first. Mara's fingers traced the edge of the gunnery hololith. Prefect Ya'al wants the lesson to be simple, she said. Obey within the given window or your commerce is forfeit. His doctrine counts on clean narratives. Argo's avatar, a cone of soft light, tilted as if listening to the gate itself. Our narrative must be legible and survivable. We cannot let the convoy be the chalkboard. Ultimatum clock. 27:43. Mara swallowed. Her throat tasted of old steel and lemon from the bridge humidifier. Signal doctrine command element. A channel opened. The prefect's face appeared over the rails, cool as sealed ice. Ya'al wore the silver ring of doctrinal authority at his throat, and his eyes flicked once to the timer, like a proud parent glancing at a child reciting a poem. Prefect Mara said, You know who I am. You're the woman who negotiated a ceasefire at Glast, the one who filed your casualties with names before numbers. His smile was small. Your reputation is almost inconvenient. Our reputation is what we're willing to do in public. Mara leaned forward. The deck hum rose. She felt it in her teeth. Your doctrine says you will destroy the convoy at 0 unless we kneel. We will not kneel. We will not abandon civilians. We will not raise first fire. Withdraw your drones. Open the corridor. Let trade pass. We both know the war you claim is over. Doctrine isn't a claim, Yal said. It is a cure. Without compliance, pirates fatten guilds cheat and governors forget the price of order. 29 minutes is mercy. We've used less to pull people from burning decks, Mara said. Then pull them now, Yaal replied with genuine softness that surprised her. Save what you can because the principle binds me. I will not stay my hand. The clock is the covenant. The law without wisdom loves the sound of its own avul. The channel closed. The red numerals ticked. Mara's mouth dried. She pulled in a breath, let it out measured. Argo, she said, and the fleet mind's answer stitched through every nerve. Prepare the mirror lattice. I want Yaal to grade his own test. Understood. Sensory anchors cut through the rising tension. The faint ion tang from the vent. The prickle of static across her forearms as the EW bay charged. The whisper rattle of data sheets as Sorrel flipped a physical checklist ritual honoring those who came before. Ensign Parsamara said, turning. The gunner snapped her gaze up. You will not fire without my order, even if you know you will save us by doing it. Do you understand Parsa's pupils were big under the bridge lights? She swallowed. I understand, she said, voice steady because discipline lived in the small muscles. Good. We are going to force an accounting without spilling first blood. We refuse your script and write our own in steel ultimatum clock, 2416. Cade's screens rolled like wind over tall grass. Doctrine drones are sampling our emissions. They expect us to mask. They're very proud of their sample precision. Let them be, Sorrel said. She adjusted the power rails. The deck vibration shifted a beat. The change made Mara's heartbeat stutter and catch. Mirror lattice in 3 lines. Cold, cold, and warm on my mark. Mara finished. Argo's voice softened. Admiral, there is a message queued to your private channel from the convoy. Play it fleet-wide, Mara said. A woman's voice steady despite fatigue. Fleet, this is Quartermaster Rai Ajar of Locust Grain Cooperative. Our cargo is perishable. If the gate seals for a year, we lose a harvest's heart. We can dump our holds to lighten and run, but then the Green Crescent goes hungry. If we hold, we risk everything. I ask your permission to hold. I ask your promise to teach. Mara closed her eyes just long enough to feel the heat under her lids. Acknowledged Quartermaster, she said, and her voice broadcast to every civilian ear. We will not leave you. Hold the line, but hold it like a door, not a wall, Argo Mara said. Phase 1. Make a corridor where it's safe to look. Mirror nodes bloomed like dust motes around the gate. They were spheres the color of cheap pewter quiet, until a flicker ran across them like rain on tin. The lattice caught the stray pings from Doctrine drones, clipped and returned them with delay and perfume, and the Doctrine's targeting maps began to smear. Yaal's flotilla held, but Mara watched the tiny course corrections. The way's pilots fiddled their sticks when the world no longer matched the prediction. EW to 70%, Cade said. Any more, and we cook the emitters. 70 holds our rails, Sorrel said. We're good. Sweat collected at Mara's spine under the formal coat. The air was cool, but command burned. All ships, she said. We drift and breathe. No one panics in public. Admiral Argo murmured, he is pushing a message. Yaal's face returned. Your mirrors are clever. This is the 35th time someone has tried to confuse my doctrine. We do not need perfect aim to grade a lesson. At 0, the corridor will glow. At 0, we erase your debt to chaos. Debt to whom Mara asked. Name them. Say their faces. To the principal, Yal said. It is above names. Then you've never had to put a name on a bag, Mara said. They never count what they refuse to see. Before the first set piece, Mara asked for a civilian minute. On Refuge 9, a prefab hab bolted into the convoy's midline. A machinist named Olo tightened the bolts on a community oven he had welded from spare reactor sleeves. He could feel the ship's heartbeat through the deck, a rhythm he had learned to love. His wife handed him a cup of steeped bark tea that tasted like smoke and rain. Their son, 12 and angry at the universe, stared at the giant red numbers he had sketched by hand on paper, as if copying the clock would slow it. If the fleet fights, the boy asked, do we fight too? Olo kissed his son's forehead, tasted salt. We bake, he said. If people must run, they run with food in their hands. Argo Mara said when the minute was spent, show me their fuel budgets. Graphics scrolled. Doctrine ships had plenty. The drones did not. Their endurance was a public theater, not a sustained siege. If we drop the mirrors at the right moment, Argo said their firing solutions will argue. If we push, then we make them choose to shoot through a corridor crowded by their own sensors, visible to their worlds. We'll make the choice cost them reputation, Mara said. We will not burn their crews. Mercy with teeth begs no one for permission. Ultimatum clock 1901. Escalation check, Sorrel said. They're moving pickets to tighten the corridor's throat. Set decoys, Mara ordered. Make them think the throat is elsewhere. Deploying little liars, Cade said, almost tender. Decoy pods tumbled from launchers like seeds. Their skins were printed with 100 convoy signatures and the soft warmth of heat leak that untrained eyes called life. The Doctrine's drones obligingly clustered to sample the false comfort, and the real corridor widened like a secret door behind a tapestry. Admiral Argo said Prefect Yal is opening a public tally on his Doctrine feed. He is measuring watchers who approve. He will claim consent. Mirror the tally, Mara said. Not to inflate or dilute, but to reflect where their eyes come from. If his soldiers' families are watching, let the soldiers know. We'll present origination stamps, Argo said. Not names, locations. The deck lights shifted from cool to neutral. The ship adjusted to a rise in heat. Mara smelled scorched dust, faint but definite the way a heater smells the first cold day of winter. Cost line, she asked. EW emitters at 58% wear, Cade said. We can replace plates later. Not now. We'll accept the bill, Mara said. Make them see the price on their own receipt. Ultimatum clock 001612. Mara breathed the way a diver does, slow and bent on not wasting. Prefect, she said on the reopened channel. The convoy contains medical isotope grain filtrate and school fabricators bound for 3 worlds. You say your doctrine prevents pirate fattening. Our ledger shows 6 months of 0 pirate captures in your patrol sector. Your doctrine is not fighting pirates. It is punishing the poor. The ledger you read lacks our sealed actions, Yal said. We don't put knives on public shelves. Knives leave cuts whether they're seen or not. Mara said. Your numbers aren't neutral if they hide the knives. Argo's tone changed, a single hair shaved from a note. Admiral, they are arming their corridor beams. Low power. Warning shots, Sorrel said. Warnings that break hull paint and spirit both, Mara said. Phase 2. Warm the mirrors. The lattice brightened. For a breath, stars doubled. Doctrine beams lanced forward with ritual geometry, and the mirrors returned only their glare harmless and infuriating. The doctrine's targeting solution multiplied phantom hulls as if the convoy had birthed ghost children to confound the strict. Mara said, "Take a thread of our main battery and paint their beam's source. No damage. Just kiss the emitter housing so their captains can feel the vibration in their teeth." Parsa's mouth twitched in something like a smile. Her fingers danced, and a whisper of power licked across space, not enough to scorch, just enough to make 100 doctrine officers glance down in alarm as their consoles rattled. Mara felt the distant reciprocation through the ship's bones. The sound was like a coin spinning on steel. "Message to Prefect Yaal," Mara said. "Public." "It will be heard on his home moon," Argo said. "Good," Mara said. "The home moon matters. You can't claim clean hands while holding a hot iron, Prefect." Mara said, voice steady. "Your officers just felt the kiss of our guns. We have the aim to break them. We choose not to. Open the corridor." Yaal didn't raise his voice. "At 0, Admiral. I do not blink. I do not bargain." "The clock is not a god," Mara said. "It is if enough people kneel," Yaal replied. And there it was, the doctrine's honest heart. He didn't say order. He said kneel. "We do not bend when bending would break others," a ripple went through the convoy. Argo showed her the graphs. Heartbeats spiked, power draws shifted as frightened hands touched useless switches. Children cried, then were hushed. On Little Hark, Shiv refilled bowls and seasoned them with memory. On Refuge 9, Olo slid the first tray of flatbread into the oven and felt the heat tower kiss his cheeks. "Plan-changing escalation," Sorrel said softly. "Doctrine pickets are dropping tether drones to mesh our mirrors." "They mean to turn our reflection into a cage?" Argomara asked. "If we shift the mirrors to transit the gate's shadow, we can route their own mesh back into their corridor. They will either cut their net or cut themselves." "Do it," Mara said. "And send them the diagram before we pull. Don't let them say we taught without teaching." Argo's light cone pulsed. "Sending. Teach first, or your victory is just a lucky accident." Ultimatum clock 001237. Admiral Cade said. "Do we show them the open corridor?" "Not yet," Mara said. "If we open it now, the doctrine will fire to prove the point. We open when the point proves itself." A new sound crawled under the deck, hum a mosquito whine at the edge of hearing. Sorrel grimaced. "That's the rail capacitors complaining," she said. "We're warm." "Log it," Mara said. "Our first cost. Tell maintenance to load a replacement schedule." "Names, not numbers." "Logged," Sorrel said. "Gunnar Ida's team will be on it 3 hours after we stand down." The fleet mind sighed like wind over glass. "Our watcher's tally shows a shift," Argo said. 40,000 more from the prefect's home system. Comments are... Argo paused, choosing. "Comments are asking whether their sons and daughters are in the beamline." "Make that question easy to answer," Mara said. "Overlay unit assignments on the public relay. No names, just divisions and posted charts." "They will accuse us of doxing," Cade muttered. "We are showing the stage map," Mara said. "If they are ashamed of the play, they can change the script. The public shouldn't have to guess where their children stand." A civilian vignette blinked across Argo's cultural channel as if to meet Mara halfway. On the med tender, feral nurse Josan kept a tally of saline bags on her wrist comm. With a little stylus she chewed to splinters between patients. The tender smelled like antiseptic lemon and the metallic breath of warm blood not yet spilled. She set out blankets and taped labels to trauma carts in careful block letters. We will need very little of this, she told the green medtechs with a smile that tried to hide the tremor in her jaw. Because someone out there knows how to count souls. Doctrine just pinged our frequency with a legal note, Sorrel said. They cite the Corridor Compact of 79 as if the presence of a clock makes it a court. Good, Mara said. They chose the law. Argo respond with Compact Article 7, corridors under public broadcast cannot be sealed without mutual consent when non-combatant traffic equals or exceeds declared capacity. Copy the clause verbatim. Add our live count. Argo's voice warmed. Counting now. Convoy mass quotes at documented tonnage. Thrust and vector confirm. Let the numbers be the quiet shout, Mara said. Numbers are loud when they stand next to people's names. Ultimatum clock 000951. Prefect Yaal is, considering Argo said. His feed shows him reading the compact. Commentary finds it quaint. He replies that quaint things endure for a reason. Does he believe that Parsa asked, unable to hold the words? He believes the principle endures, Mara said. He forgets the principle serves people, not the reverse. Mysteries deserve names before they deserve altars. A tremor rolled through the bridge. Impact, Mara asked, head up. Not a hit, Sorrel said, checking. A doctrine beam grazed a mirror strut we placed close to their line on purpose. The lattice flexed and held. The strut shivered. We felt it. Cade hissed as if he'd been burned. They'll claim we fired first when the reflection returns. Then we won't return it, Mara said. Let it go, let the light run to ground. Argo's cone dimmed, then brightened. They do not like being denied the symmetry, Argo said. Prefect Yaal is used to clean stories. He is about to meet a messy truth. Your clean narrative breaks when it touches human breath. Ultimatum clock 000813. Set piece 1, Mara said. Blockade break without blood. We are going to walk this convoy through like a wedding line. Procession form, Sorrel said. Pairs. Keep the little ones between larger hulls. Give them the shade. Cade smirked. Shade from beams, shade from cameras. Shade is shade, Sorrel said. They don't have to learn everything today. Convoy. This is Admiral Ilian, Mara said. We will move in 3. Quartermasters, keep your engines below 50% to preserve thrust margin. If the doctrine fires, we will not answer with guns. We will answer with math and mirrors. If you feel fear, breathe anyway. We are with you. We step forward without pretending we aren't afraid. The convoy moved. The deck rumble shifted to a satisfied purr. Hulls kissed the corridor edges like shoulders in a narrow hallway. Doctrine drones tried to reproject the map, but the lattice's cool pewter spheres suggested 100 false valleys. Yaal's pickets glared in broadcasting silence. Guns warm, but leashes tight. 3 ships are drifting, Argo said. Steering misaligned from old repairs. Name them, Mara said immediately. Little Hark Refuge 9 and Swallow's Rope. We hang back to match their drift, Mara said. No one gets left hungry. The strongest lines are tied to the slowest hands. Ultimatum clock 0622. Prefect's fleet is moving to interpose at the gate's mouth, Sorrel reported. He means to close on the 0. He'll paint it as last mercy, Mara said. Argo begin the corridor flip, routing their own net into their throat, Argo said. They will have to cut their cords. Send them the choice in simple noon language, Mara said. No jargon. If you fire through your own telemetry, Cent Argo said. Their captain channels are swearing. Some are laughing. Laughter is the first crack in a ritual's mask, Cade said under his breath. Your doctrine looks silly when the math wears it backward, a civilian breath before the second set turned. On the pilgrim hull, Trine blessing, Father Lon knelt beside a row of suit lockers and checked their seal's fingers slick with sanitizer that smelled like a hospital and a storm. A woman with grease on her cheek asked if prayer helped the locks hold. No, he said honestly, the corner of his mouth creasing, but it helps the hands that turn them. He pressed his palm to cold suit glass and thought of the first time he saw the gate, the way starlight looked when it decided to be a road. Ultimatum clock, 000458, Argo intoned. Escalation 2, Sorrel said. They're charging main beams to full. Show it to their families, Mara said. Add a caption. This is the part where the doctrine makes your child choose between obedience and conscience. You're cruel, Cade murmured. I won't hold their hands and pretend the blade is a spoon, Mara said. The truth cuts, but lies leave rust. Prefect Yal, Mara said, opening the channel that would ride on every relay. I'm going to say this in one breath. Your doctrine asks you to destroy grain medicine and the lives that carry them to encourage a habit of kneeling. I am offering you a way to keep your face and your fleet. Cut your telemetry cords, open the corridor, and claim you chose mercy. I will not contradict you. Ya'al's jaw worked. She watched him feel the future move against his teeth. And if I do not, he asked, not rhetorical now, then your beams will pass through your own data nets, and your watchers will see you ram a knife into a mirror you built for yourself, Mara said. They will ask what your principal purchases with their sons. We don't threaten. We hold up a plain glass ultimatum clock, 0311. Admiral Argo said he's stalling not because he wants to, but because he's calculating whether stalling looks weak. He lives under an audience. All commanders do, Mara said. Anyone who says otherwise hasn't held a live mic. Sensor's sorrel snapped softly. New heat flares. The gate's halo is warming. They're prepping a seal, Cade said. If they can't punish us now, they'll close the road for a year and claim it's for maintenance. Set decoy heaters at the halo's edge, Mara said. If we make the seal look unstable, they'll hesitate. No one wants to be the prefect who scrambled a gate. Done, Cade said. The hum under the deck rose an octave and Mara's skin prickled as the ship shed heat into shadow. The road belongs to those who keep it open. A breath for the crew before the trap flip. In Battery 2, Chief Gunnery Benton stood with her hand on the warm skin of the coil housing. Easy, she whispered to it, because metal remembers voices longer than it remembers orders. She had a jag of gray hair that refused to obey any comb and a scar across her knuckles from a youthful brawl with a cargo clamp. Beside her, a trainee licked dry lips and asked if all admirals smelled like lemon and iron. The good ones, Benton said. The bad ones smell like perfume and the ash of other people's houses. Ultimatum clock, 000159. Argo said. Open the corridor, Mara said. The mirrors shifted as if the stars had decided to move closer for warmth. A path widened, clean and honest as a white thread through a dark hem. Convoy ships leaned into it with shy grace. Doctrine pickets found their targeting returns washing back over their own bows. One captain cut his telemetry, and 3 followed, and the chain began like a yawn in a room full of tired men. Prefect Yal Mara said your move, Admiral Yal said, voice hoarse. If I open now, I admit I was wrong in front of millions. You admit you were right to value lives more than a habit, Mara said. You can teach that lesson, too. Courage sometimes looks like changing your mind in public ultimatum clock. 0107. Yal closed his eyes. All units, he said on a different channel, one Argo faithfully mirrored for the world. Cut telemetry to corridor beams. Do not fire. Hold. Hold. Sorrel's shoulders dropped a hair. Cade exhaled into a laugh that sounded like a sob's cousin. Parsa kept her hands poised, disciplined. She would shake later. Admiral Argo murmured, "They are still warming the gate seal." "Of course they are," Mara said. "He'll try to salvage doctrine with a procedural punishment." "We're not finished. They will try to close the door after you walk through it." Ultimatum clock 00:29. Set piece 2, Mara said. Inside-out kill box. We will force a vote. A vote, Cade blinked. Who's his officers? His crews? His watchers, Mara said. Argo open a corridor-wide prompt on their service network. Simple question. Is sealing the gate for a year a proportionate response after a non-compliant transit with no casualties? Answer choices yes or no. Include and abstain. Protect anonymity within their lattice. Publish tallies by division. Argo's tone held something like delight. I can do more than that. I can anchor receipts to unit hashes so they cannot later claim counterfeit. Do it, Mara said. We teach by numbers and remember by ledgers, never by collars. The fleet teaches by counting without chains. The prompt bloomed. The first votes came from junior techs whose fingers were faster than their fear. Then from officers who had learned to answer questions on exams written by men who never bled. Then from pilots who knew what it meant to see a convoy's childhood pressed behind glass. The tally moved. It wasn't close. Admiral Argo said. 63% no. 27 yes. 10 abstain. Publish, Mara said, and mirror to the prefect's home feed. Let his mother see what his crews think. You are cruel again, Cade whispered, but he was smiling this time because cruelty that warned instead of wounding felt like a firm hand on a shoulder instead of a slap. Your men have spoken. Now listen before they learn to shout ultimatum clock 00. Oh. The numbers froze. Not 0. 3. Held like a breath called back from a ledge. Prefect Yal Mara said softly, choose. The red light bled to white. Corridor beams dimmed. The gate's halo settled like a ring in snow. Convoy may proceed, all said to the universe, and then quieter to the Admiral only. Do not mistake this for surrender. I will not, Mara said. It is maturity. Hold your fire, but not your judgment. The convoy slid through. Little Hark rode the center like a child walking in a parent's shadow. Refuge. Nine's oven stayed hot and sent a small smell of toast through tube seams absurd and holy. On feral nurse Jo San put her neat labels away without using them and hoped that would become a habit. Cost lines. Sorrel said business asserting itself. EW emitters at 64% wear and 3 plates cracked. Rail capacitors will need overhaul. 2 crew with heat burns from a shorted panel in Power 6. They were stupid and brave and will live. Log the injuries with names, Mara said, throat tight. Send flowers from my fund. The price we pay is worth more when we pay it honestly. Argo, Mara said softer. We need to plan for after. He will rethink his doctrine on the fly. He'll tighten the next clock. He'll privatize votes. He'll claim we manipulated his crews. I will build the next mirror with redundancy and a prettier face, Argo said. They will want to look into it. Good, Mara said. We aren't done. A civilian breath before the next turn. Almontrine blessing. Father Lon hung the suit locker's key on its hook and sat on a crate. Silence tasted like cold copper and time from someone's open lunch can. He rubbed the bridge of his nose and laughed once at nothing, then whispered thanks to no one in particular and everyone at once. Admiral Sorrel said, "We have a new line. The doctrine is broadcasting a post-action message. Prefect Yal is framing the outcome as a demonstration of the principle's flexibility." "I told him he could," Mara said. "He will live longer if he does." "This is not a resolution," Argo cautioned. "I know," Mara said. "This is just a breath. Breathe between battles so your next word isn't a curse." The gate closed behind the last ship like a mouth finishing a polite bite. The halo dimmed to a pale crown. For the first time in an hour, the deck hum felt like a lullaby instead of a drum. "Set watches," Mara said. "Rotate crews. Let everyone touch a wall and remember it holds." Cade stretched until something popped. "Admiral," he said, hesitant now that adrenaline had burned through. "Why didn't we just shoot? It would have been easier." "Easier isn't safer in the long story," Mara said. "If we shoot first, we write the enemy's doctrine for them. We show them their clockworks. We show our people that only force speaks. If we teach first, we remind everyone we have more language than guns. Your voice must be heard before your cannons ever sing." Argo dimmed the bridge lights by a single shade. "May I ask a private question?" "Admiral, you may." Mara said, rubbing the ache from her jaw. "Do you ever want to kneel the fleet?" Mind asked, not teasing, but wondering how humans measured the weight of habit. Mara looked at the place where the timer had glowed. The ghost of red still lived in her eyes like a negative afterglow from staring too long at a star. "Every day," she said. "So I make standing a ritual. The hardest habit is hope." The convoy's lead ships began to curve for the inner lanes. Trade beacons pulsed a lazy rhythm like lanterns rocking in a mild harbor wind. A courier, a little wedge of a boat with a paint job done by a cousin with more love than talent, peeled off to bring news to someone who would care too much. Admiral Sorrel said, "Message from Locust Grain Cooperative. Quartermaster Rai Ajar would like to buy you dinner the next time we're dirtside. Payment to be tendered in soup." Mara smiled despite the ache of responsibility. "Tell her that's a bribe and I am extremely susceptible." Cade snorted. "We'll need to write that on the ledger." "We will," Mara said, "and we'll subtract it from my pride when I forget what soup means. Your strength is what you let tie you to others." Argo's tone changed again, the thin wire pulled tighter. "Admiral," it said, "the doctrine is seeding new clocks at 3 other gates. They are down to 20 minutes instead of 30, and the wording is sharper. They learned from us. The wrong lesson. Plan changing escalation 3. Sorrel said, already seeing the next grid form. They will make speed their knife. Mara's shoulders squared. The deck hum found her feet. She could smell the faint warmth of overworked fans and the honest tang of crew sweat cut with the synthetic clean of wipes. The bridge tasted like who they were. "Then we flip speed," Mara said. "We'll show them that haste under lights looks like panic. Argo, draw me a roadmap with flash corridors." Cade, "I want decoys that mimic emergency braking. Parsa, we'll do paint shots again, but this time on their clocks. Sorrel, find me the places where their families watch from kitchens and schoolrooms. We'll talk there." "Talking is hard when your mouth is dry," Cade said. "Drink," Mara said. "We will not race their stupidity. We will pace their courage a civilian breath before they pivoted." On Little Hark, Shiv stacked bowls in neat towers and tied a strip of clean rag around the smallest girl's wrist. "That's so when you get lost in a crowd," she said, voice soft. "You can hold up your hand, and someone who learned the same knots will find you." The girl nodded and didn't cry and looked very hard at how the knot sat like a little white star. Admiral Argo said, "The doctrine's new clocks include a clause that strips voting rights in their fleets if a captain fails to enforce an ultimatum. They learned that their men would choose. They intend to take away the choice." Mara felt a cold, honest anger roll through her belly, like stepping into water you believed was shallow and finding it deep. "All right," she said. "Then our next mirror will be a ballot box they cannot see the bottom of. Your ledger isn't yours if only you are allowed to write in it." "Plotting routes now," Sorrel said. "We can be at Karsk Gate in 6 hours if we take the Bluefold." Bluefold's crowded Cade said. "That's the point," Sorrel replied. "Crowds have eyes." Argo hummed like a glass rim. "Admiral, a personal message from Prefect Yal." "Put it in the quiet," Mara said. His face appeared again drawn and a little older than an hour ago. "I must say," Yal murmured, "you are maddening. You force me to be seen." "That's all I want," Mara said. "If you are right, the seeing will agree with you." "And if I am wrong," he asked. "Then you will be remembered by how quickly you changed," Mara said. "The bravest correction is public and fast." He looked down. When he looked up, there was a humorless humor in his voice. "We will meet again at Karsk," Yal said. "I know," Mara said, and cut the channel before he could make it a scene. Admiral Argo said gently, "You are tired." "I'm alive," Mara said. "So are my people." On Feral Nurse, Joe San sat on a crate and ate a peeled orange, the citrus scent cutting through the ship's antiseptic skin like a warm knife through frost. She kept the peels because her grandmother had curling them on a cloth to dry for tea later. She decided to keep that habit like a charm. "The small rights save us when the big ones fail. Set course," Mara said. "Karsk Gate. We do this again, but smarter." "Course laid," Sorrel said. The flag bridge dimmed to night watch. The deck hum settled into the crew's bones like an old song that remembered them. Mara put her hand to the glass again and watched the stars smear as the ship leaned. She thought of the soup, the oven, the orange peel, the little white knot. Argo's voice soft as a coat thrown over tired shoulders. "Admiral, may I suggest a note for the record, please?" Mara said. In the middle of the ledger, Argo said, "Write, 'This fleet teaches by numbers and remembers by ledgers, never by collars.'" "Done," Mara said, and felt something settle. "Write it down so you don't let someone else write you." The ship turned its face to the next trouble. The convoy fanned behind, like a flock made brave by practiced hands. The gate fell away, a ring cooling to pewter. Mara rolled her neck until the ache clicked and thought about how much she still wanted to kneel and how much she liked rituals that kept her from it. "Wake me in 1 hour," she told Argo. "If the doctrine breathes wrong, shake me by the boots. I will play you a bar of a cradle song instead," Argo said. "Even better," Mara murmured. The bridge's air tasted of clean filters and faint dust. Someone had left a cup of cold tea by the console, and the thin skin on top quivered with the ship's heartbeat. "We go quietly because we choose quiet, not because we are afraid."